What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me here once again for another brand new installment of Renegades Reviews, exclusively here on the Casa D18 Studios channel. I, of course, am your host, the Renegade J.J. Williams, thanking you for coming back and joining me here in the theater. Now, today, we're going to take a look at a new release here on the Casa D18 Studios channel, so no anniversary or anything. As you guys may know, that's going to be the new shtick coming up once the turn of the year and the full relaunch of the Casa channel. Everything's going to be about anniversaries, with the exception of some sideshows. This is a brand new movie we're going to discuss. Came out about a week ago, Friday the 13th, September 13th, 2024. And the movie we're going to discuss today is called The Killer's Game. Now, The Killer's Game is a 2024 American action comedy film directed by J.J. Perry and written by Rand Ravitch and James Coyne, based on the 1997 novel of the same name by J. Boinansinga. I hope I pronounced that right. Film stars Dave Batista, Sofia Boutella, Terry Crews, Scott Adkins, Marko Zaror, Klementieff, and Ben Kingsley, along with WWE superstar Drew McIntyre in a minor role. And our movie opens at a dance performance in Budapest, where hitman Joe Flood, played by Dave Batista, kills several security guards before making his way to his target on the balcony. The target pleads for a few seconds to be allowed to finish watching the performance, but Joe shoots him in the head before ordering his captive female attendant to leave. Before everyone else notices the dead man, his other guards come out and Joe has to kill them. The gunfire leads to a panic, causing everyone to run, and Joe spots a fallen dancer named Maisie, played by Sofia Boutella, and he helps her get out safely. She tries to thank him, but Joe starts to suffer from a headache and leaves before Maisie can help him. Joe goes to get some tests done because of the headache, and he confides in his mentor and close friend, Zvi, played by Ben Kingsley, that he is beginning to question why he still does what he does. He then goes to a dance studio where Maisie has classes in order to return something to her, only to discover that she has taken a romantic interest in him after he saved her. When Maisie gives him her number in order to try to take her up on a dinner offer, Joe initially considers throwing the phone number away, but he realizes that he is indeed attracted to Maisie, so he decides to go for it. Joe and Maisie have dinner where she talks about her love for dancing and a desire to open up a dance school, while Joe says that he works in retirement planning. The two eventually begin dating, and they get serious, with Joe actually falling in love with Maisie. However, he gets results of his tests back, and his physician, Dr. Kagan, who is played by Raffaello de Gratola, tells him that he has Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, or CJD, a neurodegenerative brain disorder that will eventually cause his motor functions to completely shut down, giving him roughly 3 months to live. And I apologize again if I'm mispronouncing some of these words. Now, worried for Maisie's future, Joe goes to Zvi looking to have a contract put out on himself so that Maisie can collect life insurance money off of Joe's death. Zvi refuses to do so since he cares so much for Joe, kind of having a father-son relationship. So Joe goes to his last resort. He goes to a woman named Antoinette, played by Klementieff, another very skilled assassin who now assigns contracts to any willing killer. Antoinette also holds a personal grudge against Joe because he killed her father, even though her father was like a mentor to him. Joe tells Antoinette to put a $2 million hit on him that goes into effect at midnight, and she happily agrees and sends the hit out. First, she contacts seasoned hitman Lovedoll, played by Terry Crews, but he immediately turns it down because he feels $2 million is too low for Joe. Antoinette then contacts Korean assassin Goyen, played by Lee Kuhn, and his crew, plus 2 Hungarian brothers who kill together. That evening, Joe meets with Maisie, looking to break up with her by making an excuse to get her to hate him and therefore make it easier on him when he's dead. He goes home, gets drunk, and leaves Maisie an emotional voice message explaining his diagnosis and that he really does love her. Moments later, Dr. Kagan calls Joe urgently in order to inform him that his test results got mixed up with another patient and that he is most definitely not sick. Joe then looks at the clock and realizes he's screwed. Goyen and his gang arrive and make it to Joe's apartment. They proceed to attack, with Joe killing each of them one by one until he jams one of their weapons into Goyen's head. The last assassin is killed when Joe intentionally triggers a booby trap, causing a bomb to go off that sends her flying out of his window. The Hungarian brothers then show up on their motorcycles, but Joe smashes one brother's skull under his boot while sending the other one flying. Joe attempts to call Antoinette and tell her that he has changed his mind, wants to cancel the contract, but she refuses and is now doubling the hit just to ensure that Joe dies. Antoinette proceeds to make good on her word and contacts every available hitman within Europe. Lovedoll joins the hunt now that the price has gone up, and he is forced to work with an aspiring British assassin named Money, played by George Sumner, who is a complete bumbling idiot. Scottish brothers Angus and Rory Mackenzie, played by Scott Adkins and Drew McIntyre respectively, accept the contract after a few drinks. Meanwhile, British strippers Ginny, played by Lucy Cork, and Tanya, played by Shayna West, aka the Party Girls, kill off their current targets and then go for Joe. Finally, a dancing assassin called Bautista, played by Marko Zaror, joins the game. Joe goes to get help from Zvi and his wife Sharon, played by Alex Kingston, the latter of whom gives Joe a good enough massage that it fixes his headaches and bad vision. He then goes with Zvi to a nearby castle and sets up traps in order to lure the other assassins there to finish them all off at once. Lovedoll and Money track down Maisie at her apartment after Joe sent her a message warning her not to go back there. When the two try to accost her, Maisie kicks Money in the balls and knocks him on his ass before Lovedoll knocks her out cold and takes her with them. The Mackenzie brothers are the first to arrive on the castle property in order to confront Joe. They confidently come in for the kill until Joe steps out to brawl with them. Joe sets off a booby trap that sends Angus flying into the antlers of a deer head, impaling him, while Joe stabs Rory through his neck. The party girls show up with their guns drawn, firing at Joe, and he causes Ginny to walk into a trap, and when she is down, he pulls one of the pins off of her grenade belt and throws her in Tanya's direction, blowing them both up. Botas then makes his attempt on Joe's life, only for Joe to set off a C4 explosive that blows Botas to chunks. Lovedoll contacts Joe through Maisie's phone in order to let him know that she's been taken, and he tells Joe where to meet him. Meanwhile, Maisie convinces Money to let her out of the car so she can stretch her legs, and she hits him over the head. When Joe arrives at the cemetery where Maisie is being held, she takes the car and runs into Lovedoll before taking Joe with her. A full-on mercenary hit squad led by Antoinette's right-hand man, Max, played by Daniel Bernhardt, shows up and tries to shoot Joe, but Max claims that he got a shot in. Lovedoll is not happy about Antoinette sending the mercenaries since they are already getting paid under her payroll. He demands that Antoinette up the contract now to $6 million. On their way out, Joe confesses the nature of his actual job to Maisie and that he was misdiagnosed, but that he is also willing to leave the assassin life behind for her. Maisie then tells Joe that she is pregnant and would not want to raise a child with the murderer. She starts to pass out because one of Max's bullets hit her shoulder. Lovedoll then ditches Money because of how useless he completely is. Joe brings Maisie to a church for sanctuary and to tend her wound. The priest, Father O'Brien, played by Dylan Moran, shelters them, and after Maisie wakes up, Joe proposes to her. Father O'Brien agrees to marry them even though they are completely unprepared. But Joe has to do confessional first. Father O'Brien ends up completely mortified after hearing about Joe's extensive murder history, but he decides to go ahead and officiate just to get them out of there. Max and his goons show up, shooting Father O'Brien in the shoulder before Lovedoll shows up. Joe kills most of Max's goons before pinning Lovedoll under some scaffolding. Max then corners Joe and tries to kill him, but Maisie blows off Max's head first, much to her horror. Joe takes Maisie out of the church and leaves Lovedoll buried under the debris. Antoinette attempts to skip town after learning that Joe has killed everyone that she sent, but Zvi gets the drop on her first, reminding her that she broke the rules of the game by sending a mercenary squad during an open contract, thereby dishonoring the assassin's agreement. Zvi executes Antoinette with a bullet to the head. Joe and Maisie get married for real with their friends in attendance, while Joe promises to make good on his word to retire from the assassin life. Maisie considers how expensive raising a child will be, so she suggests not giving it up entirely, and our movie comes to its close. Now, believe it or not, actor-rapper Ice Cube was originally supposed to play the Terry Crews role, Lovedoll. Sadly, despite generally positive reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, CinemaScore, and PostTrack, the movie has thus far been a complete and utter box office bomb, only making $4.1 million to date of its $30 million budget back. Sad. I personally enjoyed the film. I thought it was a fun, mindless action romp with just enough heart to make you care about the Joe Flood-Maisie relationship. I'm going to give this film 3.5 out of 5 stars. Again, it's not the be-all, end-all in motion pictures. I always joke, they can't all be Citizen Kane. They can't all be, the greatest film of all time. A lot of times you go to see an action film and it's just crash, boom, bang, explosions, gunfights, car chases. Sometimes you just want a mindless movie that you can escape into. And I feel that The Killer's Game was just that. It was a mindless movie. There was enough story to keep it progressing and keep you interested without boring you. I felt, like I said, that there was enough heart between Joe and Maisie to actually invest you in their relationship. I felt like the side characters were funny and witty enough. Loved all. Terry Crews, I mean, you can't go wrong with Terry Crews. I thought that the party girls were good. I thought that Drew McIntyre did a good job as Rory and Scott Adkins did a good job as Angus. Money was a hilarious character. And I liked getting to see a different side of the Dave Bautista Palm Klementieff relationship. If you think about it, Palm Klementieff is Mantis in Guardians of the Galaxy, right? And Drax, Batista's character, is always just so ruthless to her. He's a dick to her for virtually no reason. I mean, you kind of sense that maybe he cares for her, you know, that Drax cares for Mantis, and that's why he's a little bit overly of a dick, is he's kind of playing that hard to get. But he's just so cold to her a lot of the times. So it was fun to kind of be able to flip that. And now Palm Klementieff is being a ruthless bitch to Dave Bautista. You know, Antoinette is just, she gives not a fuck about Joe Flood. And especially once we find out that he's misdiagnosed and he wants to try to cancel the contract, she's got that personal vendetta. It's like, no, you killed my father. I am going to make sure you die. And I just thought that was so, that's one of the main reasons I wanted to see this movie, aside from Drew McIntyre. I wanted to see them do something together that wasn't Guardians of the Galaxy. It's very much like Chris Hemsworth, Thor, and Tessa Thompson, Valkyrie. You see the relationship that they have in the Marvel movies. I went to go see the Men in Black film because I wanted to see what kind of chemistry they had outside of the MCU, see if that carried over. And for that, I wasn't disappointed there. I wasn't disappointed here, too. Palm Klementieff and Dave Bautista still have chemistry outside the MCU. And I thoroughly enjoyed watching their relationship. You know, I have a feeling this may be one of those type of films to just generate a cult following. And once it hits streaming, once it hits digital, once it hits DVD, Blu-ray, 4K, maybe it'll generate a little bit more. It'll do a little bit more recuperation in the money. Hopefully it'll at least generate enough that it'll make its money back. Because I do see legs on this for a franchise. We need to see what happens now with Joe and Maisie. But with 4.1 million return off of a $30 million film, at this point, I don't see a sequel. But they did leave it open where there could be one. Hopefully something happens there. But 3.5 stars out of 5 for The Killer's Game. What did you guys think? Have any of you guys at home seen this film yet? My loyal viewers here in the theater, let me know your thoughts. Leave it in the comment box below. Do you feel that Dave Bautista did a good job? Do you like the Bautista Palm Klementieff chemistry? What about Drew McIntyre? Do you see a future in films for Drew? with his portrayal here. Let me know about Terry Crews. What do you think about the fact that Ice Cube was supposed to be the Terry Crews character? I was a little bit blown away by that when I found that out. I mean, I definitely feel like Terry Crews' character would have been a little bit more comedic if Cube had done it, but definitely caught me off guard there. That's going to just about wrap it up for my review of the Killer's Game. Make sure you stay tuned in because I will be reviewing in its entirety the Mr. McMahon Netflix documentary here in the not so distant future. Make sure you keep yourself tuned in to check out that video when it drops as well. Otherwise, Renegades review will be back at the beginning of the year 2025 when the channel gets its full refurb relaunch, new shows being added, new content. Until then, thank you guys for joining me here in the theater, and I will see you guys next time.